Rainwater dripped through the cracked roof and landed beside Daniel's mattress every few seconds. He sat on the edge of the bed pulling on damp socks while motorcycles screamed outside the narrow street below his window. His stomach folded painfully from hunger, but he still pushed his only clean shirt flat against his chest before rushing into the cold morning. The bus jerked through traffic so violently his shoulder slammed against the metal window frame again and again. Sweat gathered under his collar long before sunrise fully touched the city. Across from him, a man counted thick stacks of cash with carved fingers while Daniel quietly checked his bank balance 3 times, hoping the numbers would somehow change. Inside the office, the air conditioner rattled like it might collapse from the ceiling. Daniel carried boxes between rooms while his manager barked complaints without lifting his eyes from the computer screen. Every mistake felt public. Every silence felt heavy. By afternoon, his lower back burned so sharply he struggled to straighten himself fully. That evening, his friends laughed loudly around plastic tables outside a roadside bar glowing with yellow bulbs. They mocked his careful spending and called him afraid of life. Daniel forced a smile while holding the same untouched drink for almost 2 hours. Deep inside him lived a quiet terror of returning home completely broke again. Near midnight, the electricity failed across the neighborhood. The entire street disappeared into darkness, except for one small food shop still lit by a smoking generator. Daniel stopped walking when he saw the old woman inside carefully separating tiny coins into different jars with slow, patient hands. Her face looked peaceful despite the heat and noise around her. When Daniel bought a piece of bread from her, the old woman smiled softly and said something that stayed inside him for years. He said poor people often spend money to escape pressure, while disciplined people spend money to buy freedom from pressure later. Then she returned quietly to her counting as if the words meant nothing. That night, Daniel lay awake listening to mosquitoes circle above his bed. Sweat rolled behind his neck while neighbors argued through the thin concrete walls beside him. He stared into the darkness, realizing he had spent years chasing relief instead of stability. The truth hurt because it sounded painfully simple once he finally understood it. The next morning, he woke before dawn and walked through empty streets covered in wet newspaper and muddy water. He began writing every expense inside a cheap notebook while drinking plain water to silence his hunger. His friends stopped calling him out at night. Slowly, the loneliness became louder than the city itself. Weeks passed, then months. Daniel spent his lunch breaks inside a tiny storage room behind the office studying business videos through cracked earphones, while fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Dust clung to his sleeves. Sometimes cleaners locked the room without noticing he was still inside. He stayed anyway because the silence helped him think clearly. One evening, his mother called asking for money Daniel did not have. He stood outside under flickering streetlights, listening to disappointment tremble softly in her tired voice. After the call ended, he pressed both hands against his face and fought the urge to scream. The city around him felt crowded yet strangely empty at the same time. Daniel started buying and reselling damaged office chairs after work. He cleaned rust from metal frames under a single hanging bulb inside his room while rain hammered the roof above him. His fingers developed small cuts from sharp, broken edges. Some weeks, he earned almost nothing. Still, he kept showing up every single night. As the months passed, his room slowly changed. The leaking roof was repaired first. Then came a stronger fan that pushed cool air across the walls at night. For the first time in years, Daniel slept without waking from heat every hour. The peace felt unfamiliar, almost suspicious, like life was testing whether he'd truly changed. One afternoon, his manager publicly blamed him for a missing report that another employee had lost. The entire office fell silent. Daniel felt he'd rush into his chest, but something inside him stayed calm. He simply apologized, finished his shift, and walked home without carrying the anger with him that frightened him more than the insult itself. His small furniture business slowly expanded into a tiny roadside workshop beside a noisy mechanic yard. The smell of paint and hot metal filled the air every morning. Daniel worked beside young men who reminded him of himself years earlier. Lost faces, tired eyes, quiet fear hidden behind forced laughter and careless spending. One evening, a young worker asked Daniel why he stayed disciplined even after making money. Daniel smiled gently because he finally understood the answer. He said money only grows safely inside a mind that no longer panics without self-control. Success disappears as quickly as hunger once did. Years later, Daniel stood outside a larger workshop painted bright white beneath the early sunrise. Delivery trucks rolled through the gates while workers laughed nearby carrying fresh orders inside. He watched the sky slowly brighten above the city and remembered the leaking roof, the empty stomach, and the lonely nights nobody ever saw. Then he noticed an elderly woman buying bread from a small roadside stand across the street. For a second, she reminded him of the shop owner from years ago. Daniel smiled quietly and paid for her groceries before walking back toward the sound of his growing business, carrying a peace that money alone could never buy. Some battles never leave bruises on the outside. They only change the way a person looks at money, silence, pressure, and themselves. How many people around you are quietly fighting a battle nobody can see? Real transformation usually happens long before success becomes visible. If this story felt personal to you in any way, share the part that stayed in your mind the longest.